What's good, guys? So I got a deck profile for you, and this is gonna be Amazement Eldlich. Before I get into it, guys, hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. But so this is a new archetype that dropped from Lightning Overdrive. I didn't really know about it. It was kind of underground, and then once I read the cards and people brought it to my attention, I actually think these cards are really good. Specifically, the Administrator and Horror House. But Administrator, which we're gonna play three of, is essentially a multi-faker. After a trap resolves, you can summon him, and then whenever the opponent normal or special summons, you can get the trap out of your deck, the Amazement and trap cards. And I only choose to play one. I know a lot of the decks right now are playing a ton of cards. They're playing Time Ticket, which is good, and the Carnival and things like that. But I think most of the other cards are kind of mediocre, and Time Ticket's really good. But if there was more good Amazement trap cards, I would play Time Ticket and a bigger engine. But for the moment being, I think Administrator and Horror House are the best cards. So I wouldn't fill my deck. Even if I was playing pure, I wouldn't fill it up with like a ton of Amazement cards just because they're not that high impact just yet. But in the future, I could see them getting more support and the cards will be definitely even better. So three of that. And then in the format we're in right now, specifically with Dragon Link Tri Brigade running around, you have to play hand traps. So Triple Ash and Gamma Driver. Gamma is probably one of the strongest hand traps when you play a trap deck like this, where you rarely ever have monsters on the field. Yeah, you can have Administrator or Lord, but you're not gonna put that on field until the Gamma resolves first. So I highly recommend playing Gamma when you play a back row deck like this. And then the double lord, you can't change that. 3 extrav because you never hit the extra deck in this, rarely. And then triple cursed, and then double punishment, never hit the extra deck, so it really doesn't matter. And then there's a bunch of targets for it. And then the Eldritch package, I'll go into that real quick. 3 Conquistador, 3 Scarlet, 1 Wakero. Wakero is the worst one. If like, I know Drytron's in the format, and maybe I would consider siding it, but playing a bunch of these Eldritch cards do not accomplish much. They're too slow for the current time. Conquistador is actually really good, so I do think like that's the selling point right now of playing Eldritch. And there's no Black Awakening or the counter trap, and that's only because to play the counter trap and Black Awakening, it kind of conflicts with Gamma because you always want to set up the Lord on field so you don't lose the Ash on the Scarlet if you want to set up for the counter trap. And Black Awakening, you have to activate it on your turn and you're putting a monster on the field. So I didn't like having those cards, especially when I'm trying to play Gamma and as many hand traps as possible. So these combo decks or like such as Tri Brigade or Dragon Link don't have a chance to play. So that's why the Eldritch package is like that. I could see myself maybe trying to fit a second Wakero, but I swear whenever I put the second one in, it's always just terrible. And then the triple Horror House. So Horror House is the trap card you're going to get out of deck with the Administrator. And all it essentially does is if it's targeted onto the Administrator, if you equip it to Administrator, which most of the time is a little difficult to do because that means you have to have Administrator on field and the trap set. But sometimes it can happen. Then this card becomes a quick effect, negate a monster, so like a breakthrough skill. And then the other effect that's always live, because you just equip to the opponent's monster, is the Book of Moon effect. So you just Book of Moon something, this goes to the graveyard, then you're set up to pop cards on your turn because of the Administrator's other effect. So for the moment being, I really just recommend playing this one just because there's just better generic trap cards to play in the game. And once we get better attraction cards, I would consider it. I would even consider playing the normal summon, but for the moment being, I don't think it's necessary just because hand traps are so needed. So you have to open up space for your deck if you're trying to play this competitively. And then the triple impermanence. Impermanence works with the faker of the deck, the administrator, so that's always cool. And impermanence is very strong right now in the format. Hits a lot of decks. Always feels like it does something. So triple impermanence. Torrential tribute and strike. Just good going second trap cards that are always good going first. These are just solid trap cards that I recommend playing in trap decks. And then the last card order for Lightning Storm, this card can be a lot like an auto win versus a bunch of decks. So I always recommend playing Order. This slot could be like Skill Drain too if you want to do that. So very simple main deck. I know that the ratios can change with the Eldritch cards, but I definitely recommend sticking to a smaller the Amazement engine. I think the Administrator is crazy, so definitely recommend playing that, and then the Horror House for sure. But other than that, like maybe Time Ticket can make its space in here, but I'd rather just have trap cards that are like very strong, high impact trap cards. And then the extra deck, real quick, the punishment targets, and I would even consider playing Nadir's if I had the space for it. But Nadir's I think kind of conflicts with not really conflicts with it, but if I put Ecclesia onto the field, my Gamma's dead, so I didn't like that. But I could see myself putting it in just because Nadir's is good. And then Triple Entis, Omega, the Wind Pegasus for the punishment targets, and then the XYZs, Pallades, Zeus, the trains, Borbo, Dryden, just because of if you can, because so many zoo cards are running around, you could make Asa and then summon a zoo and actually go for your own Dryden. Virgit just there because you can also send it off punishment if you're only trying to hit one card. And if you play Nadirs, then you can also send it with Nadir. So I've thought about playing Nadirs, but I don't think it's like really needed. Then Asa, and then the Light Charmer, and then Link Spitter, very standard extra deck. And then the side deck real quick, Duster, good, Pankatrops, random spots, so I just put Zoo King in there, and then 3 Lancia, 3 Nibiru. I think these 6 hand traps have to be somewhere in your deck. Triple evenly, really good, and has the same interaction with your administrator, like impermanence does, so you could evenly them, and then after resolution summon administrator. And what I also like about administrator in this deck specifically is it's 2600. This deck has a lot of trouble like clearing the opponent's field and doing damage to the opponent, so it's always nice to have a card that is big and beefy and has a pop effect to deal with multiple cards, so helps you end the game quicker before it gets out of control. And then the triple anti-spell, I think it has to be there to stop the spell cards. I want to fit Judgment somewhere in here. Either I think it has to be because Twin Twister and Lightning Storm are so prevalent. A lot of decks are just siding both. So I would definitely do that. But guys, let me know what you thought about this deck. The Amazement cards are really sick. One of my favorite cards from Lightning Overdrive. So stay tuned for more. Let me know what other variants you guys are playing around with these Amazement cards, because they could really be splashed into so many things because they're so generic, easy to summon. So stay tuned for more. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.